Hello everyone, wherever you are. I, we are back again for yet another reading of the Bible, this time Genesis 21 through 31. That'd be about 10 chapters, right? And where we last left off, we had Lot escaping Sodom and Gomorrah, and the Lord destroying it. Um, Abraham and his wife getting news from an angel of the Lord, and the Lord telling him that he would conceive, Sarah would conceive their own son from his own loins with Sarah, and that's essentially what one of the major highlights of our last reading of the Bible. But let's go ahead and get started with Genesis 21. Genesis 21. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time in which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah had borne him, Isaac. Then Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, and as God had commanded him. Now Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made me laugh, and all who hear will laugh with me. And she also said, who would have said that Sarah would nurse children? For I have borne him a son in old age. Verse 8. So the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the same day Isaac was weaned. And Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, who had born to Abraham, scoffing. Therefore she said to Abraham, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of this bondwoman shall not be the heir with my son, namely with Isaac. And the matter was very displeasing in Abraham's sight because of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not let it be displeasing in your sight because of the lad who was born of your bondwoman. Whatever Sarah has said to you, listen to her voice, for in Isaac your seed shall be called. Yet I will also make a nation of the son of the bondwoman, because he is your seed. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and skin of water and putting it on her shoulder, and he gave it to her boy Hagar and sent her away. Then she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. But the water in the skin was used up, and she placed it on the boy under one of the shrubs. Then she went and sat across from him in the distance, about a bowshot for her. For she said to herself, let me not see the death of the boy. So she sat opposite of him and lifted her voice and wept. Then God heard the voice of the lad. Then the angel of the Lord called to Hagar out of the heaven and said to her, what ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up your lad and hold him with your hand, for I shall make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw the well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the lad to drink. So God was with the lad, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became an archer. He dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him in the land of Egypt. Verse 22. And it came to pass that the time that Amalek and Phicol, the commander of his army, spoke to Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore swear to me by God that you will not deal falsely with me, with my offspring, or with my posterity, but that, according to the kindness that I have done to you, you will do to me in the land in which you have dwelt. And Abraham said, I will swear. Then Abraham rebuked Amalek because of the well water which Amalek's servants had seized. And Amalek said, I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, nor had I heard of it until this day. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Amalek, and the two of them made covenant. And Abraham set 7 odd lambs of flock by themselves. Then Amalek asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 odd lambs which you have set by themselves?" And he said, "You shall take these 7 lambs and from my hand, that they may be a witness that I have done this well." Therefore he called the place Beersheba, because of the two of them swore an oath there. Thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. And so Amalek rose with Michal, the commander of his army, and they returned to the land of the Philistines. Then Abraham planted at a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham stayed in the land of the Philistines many days. Genesis 23. Sarah lived 127 years, and these were the years of the lives of Sarah. So Sarah died in the Kiriath-arba, in the land of Canaan. Abraham came to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Then Abraham stood up before his dead and spoke to the sons of Heth, saying, "I am a foreigner and a visitor among you. Give me property for a burial place among you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight." And the sons of Heth answered Abraham, saying, "Hear us, my lord, you are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choices of our burial places. None of us will withhold from you this burial place, that you may bury your dead." Then Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, the sons of Heth. And he spoke to them, saying, "If it is your wish, I will bury my dead out of my sight. Hear me and meet with Ephron the son of Zohar for me, that he may give me a cave of Mechoplah, which he has, which is at the end of his field. Let him give it to me at full price as a property for a burial place among you." Now Ephron dwelt among the sons of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the presence of the son of Heth, all who entered the gate of the city, and saying, "No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field and the cave that is in it, but to give you in the presence of the sons of my people, I give it to you, bury your dead." Then Abraham bowed himself before the people of the land, and he spoke to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, saying, "If you will give it to me, please hear me. I will give you money for the field. Take it from me, and I will bury my dead there." And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, "My lord, listen to me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? So bury your dead." And Abraham listened to Ephron, and Abraham weighed out the silver for Ephron, which he had named in the hearing of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, currency of merchants. So the field of Ephron, which was in Mechoplah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was in it, and the trees that were in the field which were within all the surrounding borders, were deeded to Abraham as a possession of the presence of the sons of Heth before all who went at the gate of the city. And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the caves field of Mechoplah before Mamre, in the land of Canaan. So the field and the cave that was in it were deeded to Abraham by the sons of Heth as property for a burial place. Genesis 24. Now Abraham was old and well advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. So Abraham said to the eldest of his servants of his house, who had ruled over all he had, "Please put your hand under my thigh, that I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son's daughter of the Canaanites, among you whom I have dwelt. But you shall go to my country and to my family, and take a wife for my son Isaac." And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me to this land. Must I take your son back from the land which you came? But Abraham said to him, Beware that you do not take my son back there. The Lord God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my family, who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, To your descendants I give this land. He will send his angel before you, and you shall take a wife for my son from there. And though the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be released from this oath. Not only do I, but only do not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under his thigh of Abraham his master, and swore to him concerning this matter. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and departed, for all of his master's goods were in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia, the city of New York. And when he met his camels kneel outside the city by a well of water in the evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. And then he said, O Lord God of my master Abraham, please give me success this day, and show kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, here I stand at the well of water, and the daughters of men in the city are coming out to draw water. Now let me be a young woman whom I might say, Please let down your pitcher that I may drink. And if she says, Drink, I will also have your camels drink. Let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown kindness to my master. And it happened there before he had finished speaking, that behold Rebekah, who was born to the Bethuel, son of Malachah, and the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, who came out with her pitcher on her shoulder. And now the young woman was very beautiful to behold, a virgin no man had ever known her. And when she went down to the well and filled her pitcher, it came up, and the servants ran to meet her and said, Please drink with me a little water from your pitcher. And she said, Drink, my lord. Then she quickly let her pitcher down to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also, until they have finished drinking. And then she quickly emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran back to the well to draw water, and drew for all his camels. And the man said, wondering at her, remained silent, as to show whether the Lord had made his journey prosperous or not. So it was when the camels had finished drinking that the man took a golden nose ring, weighed half a shekel, and brought 2 bracelets from her waist, weighing 10 shekels of gold. And he said, Whose daughter are you? Tell me, please, is there room in your father's house for us to lodge? And so she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, Miphal's son, whom she bore to Nahor. Moreover, she said to him, We have both straw and feet enough and room to lodge. Then she bowed down to his head and worshipped the Lord. And he said, Blessed be God, Lord God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his mercy and his truth towards my master. As for me, I being on the way, the Lord led me to the house of my master's brethren. So the young woman ran and told her mother's household these things. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran out to the man by the well. So it came to pass, when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, and the things he had heard from his sister Rebekah, saying, Thus this man spoke to me. And he went out to the wind, and stood by the camels at the well. And he said, Come in, O blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside? For I have prepared at the house and a place for the camels. Then the man came to the house, and he unloaded the camels, and provided straw and feed for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him. Food was set out before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I have told about my errand. And so he said, Speak on. So he said, I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has blessed my master greatly, and he has become great, and he has given him flocks and herds, silver and gold, male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son, my master, when she was old, and he took him to give it all that he has. Now my master has made me swear, saying, You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I dwell, but you shall go to my father's house and to my family, and to take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, Perhaps the woman will not follow me. But he had said to me, The Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with you, and prosper your way. And you shall take a wife for my son, from my family, and from my father's house. And you will be clear from this oath when you arrive among my family. For if they will not give her to you, then you shall be released from my oath. And this day I came to dwell in the land, and said, O Lord of my God, my master, O God, O Lord, God of my master Abraham, if you will go now and prosper the way which I go, behold, and stand by the well of the water, and it shall be fast. That the virgin comes out to draw water, and I say to her, Please give me a little water from your pitcher to drink. And he says to me, Drink, and I shall draw for your camels also. Let it be her, the woman whom the Lord has appointed for my master's son. But before I had finished speaking in my heart, there was Rebekah coming out with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she sat down to the well and drew water. And when I said to her, Please let me drink, she had made haste to let her pitcher down from her shoulder, and said, Drink, I will give you your camels a drink also. So I drank, and she gave the camels a drink also. And then when I asked her, and said, Whose daughter are you? She said, The daughter of the Bethuel, your son, whom Michal bore to him. So I put the nose ring in her nose and the bracelets on her wrist. And I bowed my head and worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord God of my master Abraham, who sent me in the way of truth to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. Now if you will deal kindly and truly with my master and tell me, if not, tell me, and I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, The thing comes from the Lord, and we cannot speak to you, neither bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be your master's son's wife, as the Lord has spoken. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped the Lord, bowing himself to the earth. Then the servant brought jewelry and silver, jewelry of gold, and clothing, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and her mother. And then the men who were with him ate and drank and stayed all night. And they arose in the morning, and he said, Send me away to my master. But her brother and mother said, Let the young woman stay with us a few days, at least 10. After that she may go. And he said to them, Do not hinder me, since the Lord has prospered my way, and send me away that I may go to my master. Verse 57. So they said, We will call the young woman and ask her personally. Then Rebekah said to her, Will you go with this man? And she said, I will go. So they sent away Rebekah their sisters and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men, and they blessed Rebekah and said to her, Our sister, may you become a mother of thousands and of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gates of those who hate them. And then Rebekah said to her maids arose and rode in camels and followed the man. So The servant took Rebekah and departed. Now Isaac came from a way of Beer-lahai Roy, and he dwelt in the south. Isaac went out to meditate in the field in the evening, and he lifted his eyes and looked, and there were camels were coming. Then Rebekah lifted her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from her camel. For she had said to the servant, who is this man walking in the field to meet us? Then the servant said, It is my master. So she took the veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all of the things he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah and she became his wife, and he loved her. So Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Genesis 25. Abraham took again a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bore him Zimran, Jokshan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan, and those sons of Dedan were Ashurim, Letshum, and Ledium. And the sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Halak, Abigada, and Elada. All these were the children of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had to Isaac. But Abraham gave gifts to the sons of the concubines which Abraham had. And while he was still living, he sent them eastward away from Isaac his son, to the country of the east. This is the sum of the years of Abraham's life in which he lived, 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died, a good old age, a man full of years, and was gathered to his people. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Melchizedek, which was before Mamre, and the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar, and the Hittite, in the field of which Abraham purchased from the sons of Heth. There were Abraham married, and his Sarah his wife. And it came to pass, after the death of Abraham, that God blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt at Beer-lahai-roi. And this is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's maidservant, bore to Abraham. And these were the names of his sons, by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and then Kedar, then Abiel, then Mishpah, Dama, Masa, Hadar, Tema, Jetur, Nephish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these were their names, by the towns and their settlements, 12 princes according to their nations. These were the years of the life of Ishmael. At 137 years he breathed his last breath and died. And this was gathered to his people. They dwelt from Havilah as far as Shur, which is the east of Egypt, as you go towards Assyria. He died in the presence of all his brethren. And this is the genealogy of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah as wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padan Aram, and the sister of Laban the Syrian. Now Isaac pleaded with the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord granted his plea. And after Rebekah his wife conceived. But the children struggled together within her, and she said, If all is well, why am I like this? So she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 people shall be separated from your body. 1 people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. So when her days were fulfilled for her to give birth, indeed there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, and he was like a hairy garment all over. So they named him Esau. Afterward his brother came out and took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Now Jacob cooks the stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." Therefore his name was called Edom. But Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright on this day." And Esau said, "Look, I am about to die. So this was the birthright to me. So what is this birthright to me?" Then Jacob said, "Swear to me on this day." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentils, and then he ate and drank, arose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Okay, so now we are in the halfway through our reading of Genesis 21 through 31. And so far we have um, Abraham and Sarah giving birth to Isaac, sending Hagar and her son away. Um, Sarah dies around 122 years old, and Abraham honors her with a very fine tune for her burial. Then we have a fast forward, so to speak, with Isaac. Sorry, Isaac, and him meeting a wife, and we meet Rebecca, and Rebecca gives birth to two sons, Jacob and Isaac. And that's the lovely short of those particular chapters. But the one of the things that I kind of noticed or didn't know was that Abraham took a second wife. I didn't know that. So it's always good to reread and read the Bible because there's always something more to know. There's always a deeper understanding to have with the Bible. So let's continue on. Genesis 26. And there was a famine in the land, besides the first famine that was in the days of Abraham. And Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. The Lord appeared to him and said, "Do not go down to Egypt. Live in the land of which I shall tell you. Dwell in this land, and I will be with you and bless you. For you, for to you and to your descendants I will give all these lands. And I will perform an oath which I swore to Abraham your father. And I will make your descendants multiply as the stars of heaven. I will give your descendants all of these lands, and in your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws." So Isaac dwelt in Gerar, and the men of the place asked about his wife. And he said, "She is my sister." For he was afraid to say, "She is my wife," because he thought, "Lest the men of the palace of the place kill me for Rebekah, because she is beautiful to behold." Now it came to pass that when he had been there a long time, that Amalek, king of the Philistines, looked through the window and saw that there was Isaac showing endearment to Rebekah his wife. And then Amalek called to Isaac and said, "Quite obviously she is your wife. So how could she say she is my sister?" Isaac said to him, "Because I said, lest I die on account of her." See, okay, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm sorry to interrupt this, but what is the deal? Both him and his daddy is a mess with their wives. I mean, come on now. Don't have some pride. Yes, that's your wife, and yes, she is beautiful. All right, moving on. And then Amalek said, "What is this you have done to us? One of the people might have soon lain with your wife, and you would have brought guilt on us." So Amalek charged all his people, saying, "He who touches his man or his wife shall surely be put to death." And I'm going to interject one more time because he dropped something in my spirit. You know, There's a light, there's a peculiarness about the people of God that doesn't go unnoticed when you're in a place, an unfamiliar place. And God is with you, because didn't he just tell Isaac that God was with him and he shall be blessed? But all right, moving. Isaac sowed in the land and reaped the same year 100-fold, and the Lord blessed him. And the man began to prosper and continued prospering until he became a very prosperous. For he had possession of flocks and possessions of herds and a great number of servants. Stop. So the Philistines envied him. Now the Philistines had stopped up all of the wells which his father's servants had dug in the days of Abraham and his father. They had filled them with earth. And Amalek said to Isaac, "Go away from us, for you are much mightier than we." Then Isaac departed there and pitched his tent in the valley of Gerar and dwelt there. And Isaac dug again in the wells of water which they had dug in the days of Abraham his father, for the Philistines had stopped them up after the death of Abraham. And he called them by names which his father had called them. So Isaac's servants dug in the valley and found a well of running water there. But the herdsmen of Gerar quarreled with Isaac's herdsmen, saying, "The water is ours." So he called the name of the well Esek, because they quarreled with him. Then they dug another well, and they quarreled over that one also. So he called its name Sitnah. And he moved from there and dug another well, and they did not quarrel over it. So he called its name Rehoboth, Rehoboth, because he said, "For now the Lord has made a room for us, and we shall be fruitful in the land." See, he keeps just, dropping things in my spirit as I read this. It must be for me. Someplace you're gonna start moving through life, you're gonna start going different places, and people are gonna fight you for resources. But when you get to your expected end, you're not gonna fight. It's going to be yours. That's for somebody. Alright. So then he went up from there to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him the same night and said, "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake." So he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord. And he pitched his tent there. And Isaac's servant dug a well. Then Amalek came to him from Gerar with Asuthoth, one of his friends, and Pithcol, the commander of his army. And Isaac said to them, "Why have you come to me, since you hate me and have sent me away from you?" But they said, "We have certainly seen the Lord is with you." So we said, "Let there now be an oath between us, between you and us. Let us make a covenant with you, that you will not do us no harm, since we have not touched you. And since we have done nothing to you but good, and have sent you away in peace, you know now the blessed of the Lord." So he made a feast, and they ate and drank. Then they arose early in the morning and swore an oath one another. And Isaac sent them away, and they departed from him in peace. And it came to pass that the same day that Isaac's servants came and told him about the well which they had dug, and said to him, "We have found water." So he called it Shespah. Therefore the name of the city is Beersheba to this day. Then, when Esau was 40 years old, he has took wives with Judith the daughter of Beri the Hittite, and Basmath the daughter of Elon the Hittite. And they were a grief of mind to Isaac and Rebekah. Genesis 27. Now it came to pass, when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son, and said to him, "My son." And I and he answered him, "Here I am." And he said, "Behold, now I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore please take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out into the field and hunt game for me, and make me savory food." such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son, and Esau went to the field the hunting came to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, "Indeed I heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me game, and I make a savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey me and my voice according to what I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of goats, and I will make the savory food from them for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death." And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "Look, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and shall seem to be a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself, and not a blessing." But his mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go, get them for me." And he went and got them and brought them to his mother. And his mother made a savory food which his father loved. Then Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were in her house, and he put them on Jacob her younger son. And when she put the skins of the goats on his hands and the smooth part of his neck, then she gave the savory food and bread which she had prepared into the hands of her son Jacob. So he went to his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn, and I have just done as you have told me. Please arise and sit, and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" And he said, "Because the Lord your God brought it to me." Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near Isaac his father, and he felt him. Then he said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are of Esau." And he did not recognize him, because of his hands were hairy like his brother's Esau's hands, so he blessed him. Then he said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He said, "I am." He said, "Bring it near to me, and I will eat my son's game, that my soul may bless you." So he brought it near to him and ate, and he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come near me now and kiss me, my son." And he came near and kissed him, and smelt the smell of his clothing, and blessed him, and said, "Surely the smell of my son is like the smell of the field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore may God give you the dew of the heaven, and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's son bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those that bless you." Verse 30. Now it happened as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob scarcely had gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting, so that he made a savory food and brought it to his father. And his father said, "Let my father arise and eat his son's game, that your soul may bless me." And his father Isaac said to him, "Who are you?" He said, "I am your son, your firstborn Esau." Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, Where is the one that brought me hunting game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed." Then when Esau heard the words from his father, he cried with an exceedingly great bitter cry, and as to his father, "Bless me also, O my father." But he said, "Your brother came with deceit and has taken away your blessing." And Esau said, Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, he has taken away my blessing. And he said, Have you not reserved a blessing for me? Then Isaac answered and said, Indeed, I have made him your master in all of his birth. his brethren, I give him to you as servant. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do for you now, my son? And Esau said to his father, You have only one blessing, my father. Bless me. Bless me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, your dwelling shall be in the fatness of the earth, and the dew of the heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass, when you become restless, that you will break his yoke from your neck. Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing which his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, These days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then I will kill you, my brother Jacob. And in the words of Esau, her older brother's son told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob her younger son and said to him, Surely your brother Esau covers himself concerning you by intending to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise, flee to my brother Laban in Haran, and stay there with him a few days, until your brother's brother returns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you and he forgets that you have done to him. When then I will bring you from there. Why should I be bereaved also from of you both in one day? And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am weary of my life because of the daughters of Heth. If Jacob takes a wife from the daughters of Heth, like these who daughters of the land, what good will my life be to me? Then Isaac called to Jacob and blessed him and charged him and said to him, You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Go arise to Padan to the house of Bethuel your mother's father, and take a wife from there of the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. May God Almighty bless you, and make fruitful and multiply you, that you may assemble the assembly of peoples, and that you give the blessing of Abraham, and I give you the blessing of Abraham to you and your descendants with you, that you may inherit the land in which you are a stranger, which God gave to Abraham. So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padanaram to Laban, the son of Bethuel the Syrian, and the brother of Rebekah, mother of Jacob and Esau. Esau saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him away to Padanaram to take a wife from there. And it is said that he blessed him and gave him charge, saying, You shall not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. And that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother and gone to Padanaram. So also Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan did not please his father Isaac. So Esau went to Ishmael and took Belath, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son, the sister of Nebaioth, to be his wife in addition to the wives he had. Now Jacob went up from Beersheba and went towards Haran. So he came to a certain place and stayed there all night because the sun had set. And he took one of the stones that he had placed and put it at his head. And he lay down in that place to sleep. Then he dreamed, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and the top reached to heaven, and there angels of God were ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham your father, and the God of Isaac. The land on which you lie I will give you and your descendants. Also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south, and in you and your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed. Behold, I am with you and I will keep you wherever you go, and will bring back to this land. For I will not leave you until you have done what I have spoken to you. Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Jacob arose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put at his head and set up as a pillar and poured oil on top of it. And when he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city had been Luz previously, then Jacob made a vow, saying, If God be with me and keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, till I may come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set as a pillar shall be God's house. And all of that you give me, I will surely give its tenth to you. Sorry, Genesis 29. So Jacob went on his journey and came home to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and he saw a well in the field, and behold, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks. And a large stone was on the well's mouth. Now all of the flocks that would be gathered there, and there they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, water the sheep, and put the stone back on its place at the well's mouth. And Jacob said to them, My brethren, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. Then he said to him, Do you know Laban of the sons of Nahor? And they said, We know him. So he said to them, Is he well? And they said, He is well. And look, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. And he said, Look, it is still high in the day, and it is not time for the cattle to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them. But they said, We cannot until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. Now he was still speaking with them. Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to pass when Jacob saw Rachel's daughter, the of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban from his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban his mother's brother. Then Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rebekah's son. So she ran and told her father. Then it came to pass when Laban heard of the report about Jacob's sister's son, he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. So he told Laban all these things, and Laban said to him, Surely you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. And Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my relative, should you go therefore serving me for nothing? Tell me, what is it should your wages be? Well, Laban had 2 daughters, and the name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give you to her than I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, but they only seemed like a few days to him because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for the days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and had a feast. Now it came to pass on the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Jacob, and he went into her. And Laban gave his maid Ziplah to his daughter Leah as a maid. So it came to pass in the morning, behold, that it was Leah. And he had said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I have served you? Why have you deceived me? Then Laban said, It must not be done so around our country, to give the younger before the first born. Fulfill her week and we will give you this one also for a service in which you will serve with me for yet another 7 years. Then Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, so that he gave him his daughter Rachel as a wife also. And Laban gave his maid Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a maid. Then Jacob also went into Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban another 7 years. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he opened up her womb, but Rachel was barren. So Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called him Reuben, and so she said, "The Lord has surely looked on my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me." Then she conceived again, and bore a son, and said, "Because the Lord has heard that I am unloved, therefore he has given me a son also." And she called his name Simeon. Then she conceived again, and bore a son, and said, "Now this time my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons." Therefore his name was called Levi. Then she conceived again, and bore a son, and said, "Now I will praise the Lord." Therefore she called his name Judah. Then she stopped bearing. Genesis 30. Now Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, and Rachel envied her sister and said to Jacob, "Give me children, or else I die." And Jacob's anger was aroused with Rachel, and as he said, "I am in the place of God, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb." So she said, "Here is my maid Bilhah. Go into her, and she will bear a child on my knees, that I may have children by her." Then she gave him Bilhah her maid as a wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore a son. Then Rachel said, "God has judged my case, and he has also heard my voice and given me a son." Therefore she called his name Dan. And Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, "With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and indeed I have prevailed." So she called him Baphathilah. Then when Leah saw that she had stopped bearing, she took Zilpah her maid and gave her to Jacob as his wife. And Leah's maid Zilpah bore a son. Then Leah said, "A troop comes." So his name is called Gad. And Leah's maid bore Jacob a second son. Then Leah said, "I am happy, for the daughters will call me blessed." So she called his name Asher. Now Reuben went in the days of the wheat harvest and found mandrakes in the field, and he brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But she said to her, "Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's mandrakes also?" And Rachel said, "Therefore I will lie with you tonight for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came out of the field in the morning, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come in to me, for I have surely hired you with my son's mandrakes." And he lay with her that night. And God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore a son, Jacob, a fifth son. And Leah said, "God has given me my wages, and because I have given my maid to my husband," she also called his name Issachar. Then Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, "God has endowed me with a good endowment, so now my husband will dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons." So she called his name Zebulun. Afterward she bore a daughter and called her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son, and God said, "God has taken away my reproach." So she called his name Joseph, and said, "The Lord shall add to me another son." Verse 25. And it came to pass that Jacob had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, "And send me away, that I may go to my place, to my country, and give you my wives and my children, from whom I have served you, and let me go. For you know my service, and which I have done for you." And Laban said, "Please stay, I have found favor in your eyes, for I have learned experience that the Lord has blessed me for your sake." And he said, "Pay me your wages, and I will give it." This moocher, Laban is a moocher, okay? So Jacob said to him, "You know I have served you, and how your livestock have been with me. For that you have before I came when I was little, and increased it to a great amount. The Lord has blessed you since my coming. And now when I shall also provide for my own house." So he said, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You shall not give me anything." That's right, Jacob. Enough is enough. "If you will do this thing for me, I will feed again and keep your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from there all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the brown ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages. So my righteous will answer for me to become a subject of my spotted among the goats, among the lambs, will be considered stolen if it is with me. And Laban said, Oh, that is what according to your word. So he removed that day the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and the brown ones among the lambs, and gave them to the hands of his sons. Then he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. Now Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar and the almonds of the chestnut trees, and peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And the rods which he had peeled he had set before the flock in the gutters and the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, so that they should conceive when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaks speckled and spotted. Jacob slick. And then Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face forward towards the streaked and all the brown of the flock of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves and did not put them in Laban's flock. Verse 41. And it came to pass whenever stronger livestock conceived that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the livestock in the gutters that they might conceive among the rods. When the flocks were feeble, he did not put them in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger were Jacob's. Thus the man became exceedingly prosperous, and had large flocks, female and male servants, camels and donkeys. Genesis 31. Now Jacob heard the words of this Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away from our fathers what was our father, and acquired all of his wealth. And Jacob saw a countenance of Laban, and indeed it was not favorable towards him as before. Then the Lord said to Jacob, Return to your land and your fathers, and to your family, and I will be with you. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field with his flocks, and said to them, See your father's countenance, that is not favorable towards me as before. But God of my father has been with me, and in all of my might I have served your father. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to hurt me. If he said thus, the speckled shall be your wages, and all the flocks bore speckled. And if he has said thus, the streaks of your wages shall the streak shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore streaked. So God has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. Then it happened, at the time when the flocks were conceived, that he had lifted his eyes and saw a dream, and behold, the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and gray spotted. And the angel of God spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and spotted. For they have all Laban is doing to you. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you are anointed, and the pillar where you made me to a vow to me. Now arise and get out of this land, and return to the land of your family. Then Rachel and Leah answered him and said, Is there any still portion of inheritance for our father's house? So we considered him strangers for him, and he has sold us, which has completely consumed our money. And these riches that God has taken from our father are really ours and our children's. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do it. Then Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels, and carried away all his livestock and possessions, which he gained and acquired livestock, which he had gained in Paddan, to go to his father Isaac in the lands of Canaan. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the household idols, which were her father's. And Jacob stole away, unknown to Laban the Assyrian, that did not tell him to flee. So he fled with all that he had, and arose and crossed the river and headed towards the mountains of Gilead. And Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brethren and pursued him for 7 days' journey and overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. But God had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said to him, "Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad." So Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountains of Gilead. And Laban had said to Jacob, "What have you done? Stolen away unknown to me, and carried my daughters like captives away with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and steal away from me and not tell me? For I have sent to you away a joy in songs and with timbrel and harp, and you did not allow me to kiss my son's daughters. Now you have foolishly done. Now you have done foolishly in doing so. It is in my power to do you harm. But God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad, and that you have surely gone because of your great longing for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Then Jacob answered, saying, and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I had said, Perhaps you will take your daughters from me by force. With whomever you find your gods, do not let him live. In the presence of your brethren, identify what you have taken and take it with you." For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen it. See what's going on here? And Laban had went into Jacob's tent and Leah's tent, and into the two maids' tent, but did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols and put them in the cattle's saddle and sat on them. And Laban searched for them all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, "Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of women is with me." And he searched and did not find the household idols. Then Jacob was angry and rebuked Laban, and Jacob answered to and said to Laban, "What is my trespass that it is my sin that you have not hotly pursued me? Although you have searched all my things, and part of your household things you have found. Set it here before my brethren and your brother that I may judge between us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ox and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and have not eaten the rams of your flock, which was torn by beasts. I did not bring to you, I bore the loss of it. You have required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or night, and there I was. In the day, and my drought consumed me, and by the frost of night my sleep departed from my eyes. Thus I have been in your house 20 years, and I have served you 14 years, two daughters, 2 daughters, and 6 years before your flock. I have changed my wages 10 times. Unless God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you know you are sent away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked you last night. Verse 43. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this my flock is my flock. All that you have seen is mine. But what can I do in this day to these my daughters or to their children whom they have borne? Therefore now come and make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me. So Jacob, hold on, y'all. So Laban is basically saying well, because these are my daughters, and for my daughters and my grandchildren's sake, let's cut a deal. Laban get on my nerves. Verse 45. So Jacob took the stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brother, Gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. Laban called it Jagar Sudath. Look, something with an S, y'all. But Jacob called it Gilead. And Laban said, This heap is a witness to me between you and me this day. Therefore it was called Gilead, also Mizpah, because he said, May the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take otherwise besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is the witness between you and me. Then Laban said to Jacob, Here is the heap, and this is the pillar which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness that I will not pass beyond the heap to you, and you will not pass beyond the heat, and this pillar to be for her. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, and the God of their father judged between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain, and he called his brethren to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning Laban rose and kissed his sons and daughters and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. Okay, thank you if you stuck around for the end of this, but we have finished the last 5 chapters in the entirety of Genesis chapters 21 to 31, and Laban really irked my nerves. But I think it's just a part of life. You're going to have people that see things and see blessings within yourself that you don't, and try to take advantage of those things. And that's kind of what we saw with Jacob, with him, serving 20 plus years to get what he wanted, just to get tricked and duped each and every turn. But God did deliver him in the end. But yeah, be safe, be kind, be wise. Bye bye.